Oh my god! Keep that in.
That'll be a clip. That
Oh,
that
Clint?
goes in
You
at
said Clint?
okay, I'm not leaving this in anymore. Alrighty then. Well, hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Unboxing Life podcast. My name is Cameron, and I am currently coming at you with my gorgeous T and D mics. How you doing, boys?
Hey, it's Trevor. That's the
Hey.
T mic.
And hey, it's David on the D mic. What's up?
Y'all, you still didn't say the episode number. What is it?
Well, it's
It's episode number 4, baby.
Oh my god,
It's episode number 4.
I've not
Y'all,
been given a
see,
chance.
I let them do the intro for
Yeah,
the
you
last
let
2
us.
weeks. I
You
can't
let us
anymore.
do it. Yeah,
let
I
us
can't
do it.
we got your
Yeah.
permission. We had to sign a.
Trevor
we
was
had to get a
gracious.
slip
You
signed
had to
by our
sign your-
parents,
You had to sign the
Um,
Hogsmeade form.
and we.
There
Yep,
you go.
exactly.
Hell yeah.
And
We
Harry's
are back
parents are
with another
fucking dead,
fucking
so we
Liddy
can't get a
episode,
Hogsmeade.
baby! Alright.
Indeed.
I'd like to let's kick it off with our traditions. Cam, you want
What
to go
of our
first?
tradition?
I would love to go first. So that way we get the doom and gloom and then the inspiration instead of the other way.
There you go. There you go.
Well,
All right. So my fact of the week, my nice little trivia tidbit of the week. In 1971, in an effort to prove that his colleagues would pass bills without fully reading or understanding them, Representative Tom Moore Jr. of the Texas House of Representatives put forth a bill honoring Albert DeSalvo. The bill read in part, "He has officially been recognized by the state of Massachusetts for his noted activities and unconventional techniques involving population control and applied psychology." Albert DeSalvo is better known as the Boston Strangler, who is responsible for the deaths of 13 women in the 60s. The bill was passed unanimously.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
It was on
Love,
April Fool's Day as well. I should add that. It was an April
Damn.
Fool's Day thing that he did. And I'm pretty sure he had a nice little gotcha moment after they all voted yes on it. Just not actually reading it at all.
You love
Oh,
shouting out
man.
Boston with your facts.
It just kind of
was the-
happened. I scrolled through a few of them and it was, I mean,
Where do you find these?
most of them come from r/Today I Learned,
Nice.
where people
That's a good
post, and the best part about that is people post like a nice little summary of what it is, and then they include the link to like a credible source on it,
Oh,
That's
nice.
dope.
so you can actually read into it.
Reddit
That
is
is
quite
freaking
the
nutty.
cornucopia of information. We'll say that.
Man, there you go.
Dayvision, you wanna hit us with your song of the week?
Yeah, okay. We'll be talking about we'll be spending time in a different genre this week, but I wanted to introduce people to a little bit of country this week.
Oh,
So,
little Sturgill
my song,
Simpson.
indeed, sir. Come on now.
Sturgill Simpson is the shit, bro.
Keep Between the Lines by
Yes!
Sturgill Simpson. I knew Trevor could back me up on this, so I figured I'd start off with this if I'm going country. And also,
Alright.
yeah, I used to be one of those people who was like, I love every genre except country. And I get it. The bro country, the Luke Bryans are like no, no hate, but I get the impression that they give off. But there's a lot of interesting artists slightly under them in popularity. Sturgill Simpson does, some alt country. There's some nice horns on this.
It's super groovy. It's
Yeah.
super groovy.
Such a groove.
All right, I'll check it out.
yeah.
Fine.
It's
Fine.
honestly
Hey.
it's a banger. It's a banger because I was in the exact same boat as David, and he showed me that album, and it took me a couple years to get back and actually listen to it. And I talked to him about it. I'm like, man, that was the shining star on that show or on that album for me.
That's
So I
good.
definitely recommend that.
Yeah, so there
It
you
was
go.
my introduction to country was kind of like in late middle school, high school,
Mhm.
when like it got popular in Boston, and so all these kids are pulling up to school in their fucking like dinky little sedans and blasting music about fucking like how they want to take their truck down the back road and like
Mhm.
with whatever. And it was like, you cannot relate to this at all. Like this is not something we've had this debate about the value of music largely being about relatability or not. And I think there's that's what kind of put me off about country was just the overblown drawl and everything of like I'm from the South. And it was
forced
like
accent.
And it was the forced accent, yeah. I mean, there's even a country singer that literally doesn't have a Southern accent. He just puts it on, and he got super popular. I don't know his name, but so it was like y'all are killing me with this shit. Like this is a life so far removed from what you live. Like you're listening to music about working out in the fields, and like you've never done a day of work in your life. Like
never touched the ear of corn in your life.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that they can relate to is the solo cup.
Yep. Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's funny that you mentioned Luke Bryan because I think he just dropped an album today, so it's pretty fitting
that
you included a country track this week.
More power to you if you like Luke Bryan or whoever, but the so-called bro country or pop country is not necessarily my thing, but there's still a lot of country I can get into.
More power to you if you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'll say that as well. I'm not trying to shit on anybody. You know? Music is a very subjective experience, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'd like to read my little poem for this week. I got some constructive criticism from my beautiful girlfriend, and she told me to kind of either stick with a quote or a poem for each week. And I know you guys had mentioned it too, so I think I'm gonna do that from now on, just to maybe make it more balanced with what we contribute each week. So this poem is from the album that we're going to be discussing for a good chunk of this podcast this week. It's Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly," and if you've ever heard the album, you'll know exactly what I'm about to read. I can't tell you the title of the poem. It's called "Another Dude." That's all I'm gonna say. So here we go. I remember you was conflicted, misusing your influence. Sometimes I did the same, abusing my power full of resentment that turned into a deep depression. Found myself screaming in a hotel room. I didn't want to self-destruct. The evils of Lucy was all around me. So I went running for answers until I came home. But that didn't stop survivor's guilt, going back and forth trying to convince myself the stripes I earned, or maybe how A1 my foundation was. But while my loved ones was fighting the continuous war back in the city, I was entering a new one. A war that was based on apartheid and discrimination. Maybe want to go back to the city and tell the homies what I learned. The word was respect. Just because you wore a different gang color than mine's doesn't mean I can't respect you as a black man. Forgetting all the pain and hurt we caused each other in these streets. If I respect you, we unify and stop the enemy from killing us. But I don't know. I'm no mortal man. Maybe I'm just another dude.
Dang.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
I think we. Yeah. It's great. There's a lot to unpack there. I think we should clarify at the top that we are censoring the N-word by saying dude. Because within our white privilege lies absolutely no reason or need for us to say that word. So he is censoring the N-word by saying dude. Just to be clear.
We'll be discussing an album that even discusses that word and its origins. So that word
almost very end of the album. So that was that poem kind of summates what the entire album's about, and if you like read it line by line, it kind of goes through the actual tracks, and it's really fucking cool. So we're gonna jump right in, but before we jump right in, because I'm a jackass, I want to talk about my boy's EP. David just dropped an EP last night.
Dang, Dayvision dropped. You just telling me about this now? I've been awake for like 5 minutes and I'm just finding out about this.
Oh no, David made another one.
That's a fact.
You want to tell us what the EP is all about?
Sure, yeah. So I've been working on this for a few months or whatever. I friggin' took a break in productivity during the quarantine and everything, but I finally released this EP called Nature. It's sort of like chill hop, lo-fi hip hop, if you want to call it that. Just chill instrumentals, and I don't know. I made it, and You guys can check. It's on like SoundCloud and YouTube now. You can just type in Dayvision Nature or something. It should come up.
Yep. If you did the tags right.
How do you
Yeah,
spell
hopefully I
Dayvision?
did. Oh yeah, Dayvizion. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, it's a Z?
No, oh wait, S.
Oh
Yeah.
Lord. Oh my God.
I was like, I don't remember a Z being there.
All right, take
my
two. How
God.
do you spell David?
Dayvision. Jeez, I was going with the
Dayvision.
phonetic sound. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's I'm proud of it. I hope people like it. I hope people can. It might be one of those things you study to or go on a walk to or whatever
Hell
you
yeah.
want to do to it. Yeah.
I quite liked it. I listened to it at like 3:40 last night because I just
Oh yeah.
I promised Rocio that I was gonna be in bed by 2 a.m. last night, and I was in bed by 2 a.m. basically. But I read 2 chapters of Azkaban last night, and then I went down a Spotify rabbit hole, and then I was like, shit, I haven't heard David's album yet. So I went to YouTube and I closed my eyes and I just zoned out, and it's fucking great. I like it a lot. There's
Yeah, thanks.
my favorite track is the last one. It's called Leaves. I also did enjoy Sunlight a lot once the beat
thanks.
kicked in.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's quite nice, very relaxing. We want to play our favorite track at the very end of this podcast, so you'll get a little taste of it. So go give my
Cool,
boy
yeah.
some love.
Thanks, guys. All right,
All right, so are
Now.
we ready to actually jump in now?
let's do it. Yeah, wanted
do
to
it.
discuss the actual album To Pimp a Butterfly, which we recommended to Cameron a couple weeks ago, and he's hearing for the first time, and now he's heard it several times. I don't know how many over these past
5,
couple
right?
weeks.
5 or 6?
Probably 5 full listens, and then I would like start the album up and then get distracted and end up doing something else. So I've heard like the
Yep.
first like 3 or 4 tracks like 8 or 9 times.
That's usually how I go with that album because
Yeah.
it's so long, but the first like 6-7 tracks are just straight banging. Like,
Yeah. No, they're
So-
great. Yeah, so I mean, just on my thoughts on it, I mean, it was fucking phenomenal. We're gonna be doing a lot of comparing it to Good Kid, Mad City, I think, because that's by far the Kendrick project that I have the most experience with. I've listened to Damn maybe only a couple times. Not nearly enough to talk about it with how much you guys love that album as well.
I played that album to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've listened to singular songs, but anyway, getting back to the point. It wasn't like a like I'm used to Kendrick as a rapper off of Good Kid, Mad City as like a master storyteller of the fact that within the songs and the songs linked together tell like this incredible story.
The grand scheme. Yeah.
And so he had that kind of same grand scheme thing with the poem, because the poem you read at the beginning gets a couple lines added to it, song by song.
Yep.
So I don't know I forget when it starts exactly. I think it's about halfway through the album. That at the end of each song he starts talking about I remember you was conflicted, and then it goes.
Yeah. When does that start?
I believe like the end of King Kunta, I believe.
You think
you guys
so?
are in front
Okay,
of your
yeah.
computer, so that's like 3 tracks in then. But yeah, it just gets line by line added to it until at the very end of the album it becomes what Trevor read to you. And so it does kind of have that. He goes through this inner turmoil, where. Yeah, so Wesley's Theory, For Free, and then King Kunta are all like standalones, in my opinion.
They could, yeah. They maybe not for free, but
in terms,
free's kind of on the weird side because it's what actually this song, like, it's weird to me because when I was working at Hot Topic like 5 years ago, I worked with this guy named Mike, and this album had just dropped, and it was in our Serato in the store, and we were playing the album, and he was like, "Man, I really like this album, but like, why did he have an interlude in the second track?" And I'm just like, I was a little baby back then. I had no idea really anything about sequencing an album. So to put an interlude in the second track is a little weird, but it makes sense when you listen to the lyrics, and it just kind of bleeds into King Kunta like super easily, like with the "You ain't no king,"
Yeah.
and then it comes right in with the banging. But yeah, that track alone is super super deep with the whole. I picked cotton and made you rich. Now my dick ain't free. Like,
Yeah. It's I think you're right in the sense like the first three can sort of be separated a little bit before the poem starts, but they all tie into like the overall themes of the album.
mhm.
And I was watching an interview where he was just saying like King Kunta is just expressing confidence, and it's maybe one of the most simple songs he's ever made, but
Yep.
still in there
And it
he's
bops.
talking about. It certainly bops.
It's
It
like you
definitely
just like
bops.
bob your head to the exact rhythm. It's so easy. Like you just like flows right over you. It's dope.
Yeah.
And
that
the
bass line.
beat is so simple in the beginning, but it builds on itself very
Mhm.
subtly, and by the end it's just like super ominous. It's
Ominous.
nice.
Yeah.
Ominous,
Yeah.
is it? This
Yeah.
is my first
and-
day speaking English, so
yeah.
forgive me.
Yeah, right.
That specific ocean is looking pretty ominous.
So sick. God dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after
he,
after that
Mhm.
like massive expression of confidence you're talking about with King Kunta, right? It starts
Mhm.
getting more self-reflective as he works in the institutionalized, and then These Walls is like very self-reflective, if I remember correctly.
The first verse is about like, being intimate, and I think even the second or the first half of the second verse is still being about intimacy,
Yeah.
and then it bleeds into the events that he talked about on Good Kid.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's-
quite literally, it seems to me when he talks about, like, it's the age-old saying, like, if these walls could talk, like, the stories they would tell.
Mm-hmm.
And the walls he's talking about is basically the girl, right? Like, if her sex life could talk, like, what would it say?
Yeah,
Um,
like I think it's a little more literal in the sense of if these walls could talk, he's talking like being vulgar. He's just talking like I hear it as he's talking about the vagina.
He's talking about
If
the inside
those
of her
walls
vagina.
could
Yeah,
talk.
I was
if
dancing
those
around
walls
that,
could
but
talk.
to say it
Yeah.
explicitly, yeah. So it's and then metaphorically, it's her sex life, and all the men she's been with, and the experiences she's been through, and it talks about. I believe once it gets down to the very end, this is the one where he talks about the fact that it's it's like the baby mama of a guy who ended up in prison for life, and so he's
Yep.
yeah, and now she's fucking on a famous rapper. Yeah, so
Walls could talk.
And what's crazy about it is like that song sort of spans that topic and gets to a different thing. It also ties into what's going on in the overall album, but it's also related to Good Kid, Mad City, because specifically the guy he's talking about like being with his baby mother, and like he's saying like she basically doesn't care about you anymore, is the guy who went to prison for killing his friend in Good Kid, Mad City, the story he's telling there. But he even says,
wow, that makes it even
Wall's telling you, go listen to Sing About Me, which is
okay.
the song
That's
that's
what
talking
it is.
about his
Okay, yeah.
death. Yeah. So it's crazy. He'll do stuff like that. He'll tie stuff back with earlier albums. Like he'll reference Shireen and like in this album, like he did on last album. And yeah, I always interpreted the second verse as these walls as talking about the rap industry, but I could be totally off because he's talking about like I come around the Demolition Gone Crush and stuff, and like it seems like he doesn't want to be boxed in, and that's something he sort of talked about, but I could be off.
He absolutely doesn't box himself in on this album. In the
Yeah. I heard him say in an interview once, I don't like with all the stuff I do, I literally don't want anyone to have any sort of expectations about me. So it's an interesting take, and like it makes sense. He can throw you off with each album pretty much.
That's why it didn't really come as a surprise when the rumor came out about his next album being sort of rock tinged.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, that could work. He's got that raspy voice. He's got like 7 different voices he can utilize. I think it would be pretty cool. Like just picture Black of the Berry, but with a heavy guitar riff on it instead of what's already there. It'd be pretty
It would
nuts.
work. Yeah.
That shit's hard by itself anyway. That track might be rock a little bit. That's just super aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. We start off with those 3 tracks, and I think Wesley's theory is sort of like him talking about how he felt about getting to fame when he was coming up, because part of this album is about fame in America and maybe the music industry, what it can do to people and black men specifically, and sort of abuse them in certain ways.
And he's uneducated, but he got $1 million check.
Right, yeah, and he says it'll like he talks about Uncle Sam Wesley sniping you before you're 35. So Wesley Snipe got for tax evasion after he became famous. I believe it was tax evasion. So it was something like that, and yeah, so he talks about America and he establishes it early on, and then he just sort of gets deeper into his personal psyche, I think, with institutionalized in these walls and the kind of things he's been doing, and that sort of relates with, I think there's an overall like personal progression in this album. Like it's not like one story like Cameron was saying Good Kid, Mad City is, but it's like these vignettes or just groups of songs that talk about certain things that all tie together at the end with him learning certain things that he had to learn over the past few years of his life.
Great word there, by the way.
Vignettes.
Vignettes. It's a great word.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Yeah. What were,
so where were we? We were on These Walls. Thoughts on You, the track You.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I listened to it a few times, and then it took Trevor being like, he's talking about it, right? And I was like, no, I don't. Is he making another like callback or something? And he's like, no, he's talking about himself. And then I listened to it through that lens, and it like completely changes the way you view the song, which is the point of the song. When you get down to brass tacks, it's like, yeah. And so I was like reading the lyrics as I was listening to it, and trying to see
a lot of this album.
Yeah, I mean, he says so much in like singular verses. He says so much, and he says it in such a like poetic way that it's hard to it's not like it's what
very subtle.
Some artists do where they be overly poetic just to make it complicated. Like he's saying it like the best way that it can be said. But it's still, and that's through his like poetry and the way he writes his lines. And so I was like trying to, I was reading the lyrics and listening to the song at the same time, and trying to see where you can tell that he's talking about himself. And it's not until basically the very end of it, where he says, and if I told your secrets, the world will know money can't stop a suicidal weakness.
Yep.
So
That's
it's like
the very last line.
It's like if what he knows about you gets out into the world, he would kill himself. So therefore he has to be talking about himself. Like you can't talk about suicide. So yeah. And in that line about, I don't know how much he talks about it, but I know a lot of rappers talk about it. We were talking about it with Logic a lot, about how like money doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah.
Is like that's the point he's making there. But it's you really can't tell that he's talking about himself until the very end, and then I think he calls back to it in the next couple songs, and you start realizing, okay, like this, I guess this is it makes sense that it can be himself. And then it also, I'm just realizing this looking at the track list, the parallel with You and I, they're both just singular letters uncapitalized. So it kind of makes sense that they should be the same thing.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's a crazy song.
I is like it's not even about him, like with the whole I love myself. It's like a duality with, like, it's a pop song, and it's you can throw it on mainstream radio, but he's also talking about loving his culture, loving the color that he comes from, loving his brothers. I love myself being, like he loves everyone that comes through that vein. It's not as simple as it comes off, and that's like the beauty behind him, is that you can listen to the same song 17 times and get different like meanings just based on looking at it through different lenses.
Yeah, it is so amazing. Like a lot of people, it's cool to have vague lyrics and you can interpret them like 16 different ways, but something cool about Kendrick, like you were saying, it can be very detailed, but you realize he says things in a particular way where they're meant to work on multiple levels that he thinks like are important. So like You throws you for a curveball when it comes after These Walls, and it's like, these like weird, like detuned almost like saxophones and like jazz stuff, and like just weird like jazz rap. He's even like acting like he's drunk at the end because
At
of
the
the story
second
of what's
verse,
going
yep.
on.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk
Yeah.
about it coming in after these walls, and these walls is the first time he adds the line about I found myself screaming in a hotel room, and then
And then it
the
goes,
song literally starts
"Ah!"
with a guy just screaming.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the
it
beauty
comes
of
in
those
hot.
poems.
Yeah.
That's that poem. That's the beauty of it, is that it narrates the album for you.
It does,
But
yeah.
it's very subtle, and you don't catch it when you first hear it a few times. You have to hear it several times for it to catch on, and you're like, oh wow, this is what he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
He did that on Good Kid too.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
shit. What's the one with the dominoes? And then damn. I wish
On
I remember it.
Backseat Freestyle.
Somebody
when
say
he goes into
Dominoes.
that.
Yeah, the
Uh-huh.
backseat. Get your ass in the car. I got a BCD. Get your freestyles ready, and then it goes straight into it. He does that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the things between the tracks are so important for him, and it's just one of the reasons. Like on first listen, one of his albums is not gonna hit you with it. Like you're not gonna get everything.
No.
And it's just
You're
like,
gonna get maybe 5% of it.
Yeah, no, like I said, I
Yeah.
listened to it 3 times, and then I was still like, I just need to like read the lyrics while I'm listening to this.
Yeah.
Like it's effortful, but
Yeah.
when you put in the effort, you like see the beauty, and it's definitely worth it.
Very true. I also wanted to say something about the "you" and the whole concept of throwing the listener for a loop and it not being what it is at face value. I love
Mhm.
that concept, and Eminem does it with a track called "25 to Life," where you think he's talking about, you know, a woman and being broken up with her, but then um, he reveals that he's talking about the rap game at the very end, and it's cool because then you listen back to it and you're like, okay, I can see how this would be done a different way. So it's like it's got a duality with it, and I love those songs. I think Common does it too with one of his tracks.
Yeah, it's a cool thing for a rapper to accomplish. I think Eminem did it. Sort of had a duality thing on on his latest album with Darkness too. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he
Yeah.
did. Yeah, he told like 2 different stories simultaneously.
He was talking about himself and his like going on stage. Where he was talking about a shooter and stuff.
Yep.
And
Fucking
yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah, when someone can
is.
do that, you know, they're at a high level.
That's for the goats.
Yeah, but I like You is one of my favorite songs on there. It's
Facts.
so like it's so relentlessly dark and just about self-hatred. So like
Yep.
once you realize that it's so explicit that he's talking about hating himself, like once you understand what he's talking about, and it's, you know, he's talking about his failures of not seeing his friend who was dying in the hospital. He FaceTimed him one time. God himself would say you failed. Like it's brutal. And then like this is the thing about sequencing albums. Right after that, it goes to one of the happiest songs in the album, which is All Right.
Yeah.
And he starts off like, all my life I had to fight. But the chorus is saying like, if God got us, then we're gonna be all right. And he's talking about himself and also the black community, which is, you know, you might as well just say it's like it's such a constant theme for him to talk about both and put both things in like himself and the wider community in perspective on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he makes it look easy almost. But it's so nice to get that relief right after You, and that's like a radio hit. Like people, you know, play that
It's
wherever.
huge.
And
For what the song represents, it's huge, and it makes my heart happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
that one of those songs can break through like that, and it's even better with the cherry on top being Pharrell on the beat
Yeah.
with
On
that
the hook,
4-count
yeah.
special that he does at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's good
I
stuff.
know, it's crazy. Yeah.
Cameron is currently screwing with his bed, so we're waiting for Homeboy to get back and give us his thoughts on
Yeah,
this
if you can hear
banger.
my chair creaking around, I was trying to set up my computer because it was. Yeah. Anyway, not important.
All right.
We
Okay.
gonna be all right.
Yeah.
It's such
Great
a
song.
simple hook, but it works so well. And
Yeah.
this song in particular spawned the beginning of Damn. If you've ever heard the Damn album by Kendrick Lamar, that whole it's at the end of Blood, right? At the very start of that album,
Yeah.
when he talks about Gerald on Fox News, I think his name is.
Geraldo Rivera and
Geraldo,
yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah. And he says something particular. They pick apart. They basically they play the song like in the studio when they're recording for the news segment that they were doing, and they just record the the song being played, and it's specifically the hook. Or no, it's the pre-hook. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in.
Of what song?
Of
All right. And we
Okay.
hate Popo, want to kill us dead in the street, faux show. Then they play that, and they just pick it apart like they have no idea what that stands for. And then he says like something about hip hop being more detrimental to Black American or African Americans than racism in recent years. And it just goes into the hardest track on that album, which is DNA. But
Oh, on Damn, yeah.
It's
I remember
that's
that
another
shit.
example of him. Yeah, going back to his previous album, and he's like the news lady's just like, I don't like it, and it's like this song in this masterpiece.
Of course you don't like it
art.
because you don't get affected by it.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't know what he's talking about. And they're so willing to dismiss it in front of millions of viewers.
They
and
take
not even
one line out of context.
Yeah, they're not thinking of the perspective he's coming from. And then so it's just, I almost, like when the first time I listened to Dang, I thought of DNA as like a diss at first. Like, it just...
It absolutely is a diss.
Yeah, he's
Your
like...
DNA an abomination?
That's we gotta loop back to that because we discussed how David prefers not to swear. Is every single time in conversation when we talk about the Damn album, he'll call it Dang instead of Damn, and it is the most pure thing that I have ever had a friend do. It is phenomenal. Like he's like so stick to his guns about his philosophy there. It's remarkable.
David is super wholesome.
Dang. Yeah, it can be awkward sometimes being a hip hop fan and taking that.
Yep.
And not cussing, but hey, it works. Is what it is.
Fine.
Where does he go from All Right on the album? Because it sort of spawns a new section of the album.
The next one is, let me check, because I think it's
For Sale.
For Sale.
And then
Mama.
Mama.
Goes into Mama, right? Yeah, Mama.
Yeah.
For Sale is probably my least favorite track on the album in terms of just being a song, but it's very important to the overall theme of it. Cameron, did you ever learn who Lucy was?
Nah, I was kind of gonna just look it up, but I figured I'd let you beat the fuck out of me and then tell me on the podcast.
No, I mean it's nothing to beat the fuck out of you about it. It's super simple. It's short for Lucifer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The way he spells it was kind of misleading. Then I guess, or I guess it would be I guess it would be a little obvious if he spells it Luci instead of Lucy.
Because so it's another interlude track, and this like Trevor, this is my least favorite thing as a song, but it's barely a song. It's kind of one of the things that's like, you know, the individual tracks don't have as much replay as Good Kid, but the overall album is basically just as good. He's it's the whole thing is him sort of just being tempted by the devil, who he sort of puts in place as being part of the music industry. He says, like, you know, sign on this dotted line or something at the end.
Yeah, I mean, my first guess of Lucy was that it's a record label.
Right.
I mean, and that's why I was telling you that
he talks
it could be
about
like
it is like that.
That's why I was telling you that it could be tied to that, because, you know, the whole sign on the dotted line, there's like that age-old idiom of like, you sell your soul for riches and shit.
So sold the devil, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why the song is called For Sale. Like,
the lines are connecting.
They're very much connected. It's a very deep album.
The way, like, it's so crazy to me when you think about this stuff. The first interlude is called For Free, and he's talking about him not being for free. Like, people, you know, he's not gonna be a slave to anyone anymore, and that kind of thing. And not gonna give himself
definitely
up
ties
for free.
Into freedom.
Right, yeah, and it's freedom, yeah, exactly. And then For Sale, it seems like just a natural progression of that, but he's talking about his soul, people trying to make his soul for sale, and these struggles, because around this point in the poem too, he's talking about he's entering a new war, and his loved ones are fighting a continuous war back in the city. This is maybe a couple tracks after this, but he goes right into Mama, I think, after this, right?
Yep.
So that's,
and Cameron had a funny little joke about the beat on this album. He was like, "This beat brought to you by Pots and Pans."
Yeah, because I said it sounds like the sharpest part of the beat just sounds like someone like tapping the bottom side of a pan with a wooden spoon or something like that.
With a wooden spoon, yeah, and it's spot on because that's exactly how it sounds.
Yeah.
But I think it's the hardest shit ever.
Yeah,
It's like,
you were like, oh, come on, man, and I was like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
like it's so noticeable.
I
yeah,
agree. I definitely
very
agree.
unorthodox. Yeah, and this is part of the album, ties into his real life experience a lot. I believe he went to like South Africa, in between Good Kid and To Pimp a Butterfly, and I think he might have done shows there or whatever, but he went to, I think it's Robin's Ferry, where Nelson Mandela is from, and he saw a lot of like his influence there, and he
Mm.
references Mandela on this album for like a lot of that reason. And Mama, I guess, is, there's several ways you can interpret it, of course, because it's Kendrick, but he's talking about going back home, and it's like going back to Africa, but also after this, he has good hood politics, which is sort of like going back home to
Compton.
Compton. Yeah. So it's an
That's
interesting.
that's awesome. I didn't even really think about that song being him going back to his roots, his people's roots, and going back to Compton. That's another thing. It's just it's you take it at face value. You have no idea underneath. It could be something completely different.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's nice. That song is very nice. And a lot of these songs, like now that I'm listening back, I gave this album a lot of shit in terms of like standalone value. Like, because Good Kid, in my eyes, you could play basically every track and you would get the full value of the song. You wouldn't have to know the overlying theme of the album to get that value from that song. But you can do the same thing with this album, honestly. Now that I keep listening to it, there's a lot of tracks that stand alone pretty fine, but they also tie into that theme.
Yeah, I think it would, the way I would put it is like listening to the Good Kid tracks together enhances them, but they're fine together.
Yeah.
Whereas I think some of the tracks on this album kind of lose something by themselves.
Yeah,
Like not being
For
part of the
Sale
larger
definitely-
story does hurt them.
For Sale definitely hurts.
Whereas like you're not really losing much taking like singular tracks out of Good Kid, Mad City, but listening to them together, like especially front to back, like they're meant to be, like it's ordered, enhances it in a big way.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas
And there's even
I
a couple
definitely think
tracks
it,
on there. There's even a couple tracks on here that just tell their own story, like how much $1 costs. That's
Right.
the one after Hood Politics. I don't even think that's necessarily tied into the whole theme of the album, but it's a nice standalone story.
Yeah, I feel like it is, but in a Kendrick way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll get to it.
it's
Yeah.
thematically
Politics.
involved. It's not like, because he tells separate stories that are connected,
Mm.
on like
Yeah,
connected through theme and how much he like has been torturing himself and the like his own personal like mental journey, which is a lot of what this album describes. And it's, I mean, how much $1 cost was interesting to me when I like finally read the lyrics, was because it's just a conversation with a homeless guy, right? But at the very end, it's like there's I don't know if you guys are familiar with Greek myth at all.
Slightly.
There's a concept in ancient Greece called xenia, which is like being hospitable to anyone at any time in need. And like if someone knocks on your door, you're supposed like knocks on your door in the rain or whatever, you're supposed to offer them hospitality. And that's like the story of Beauty and the Beast, as well as like a witch that like comes to the prince's door and like he doesn't offer her hospitality, so she turns him into a monster. It's like all that. There's several experiences or stories in Greek mythology where gods will disguise themselves and knock on someone's door like as a test. And if they're hospitable, then they get rewarded, and if they're inhospitable, then they get punished. And that's at the very end. I should look it up so I can read the actual line, but it's the way it's written is very interesting to me as well, because you can't tell if it's just like a crazy homeless guy spitting bullshit or if it's actually supposed to be true. But he calls himself God. He's like,
Yeah.
I've asked you for $1. You've told me all the reasons why you can't give me just $1, and you fucked up, Kendrick. I was testing you. I am God.
yeah,
all my nickels is mine to keep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of those songs that took so long for me to fully appreciate, because I got the story, but I thought it was like, okay, I feel like I've heard about this type of thing in Christian themes or something before, where
Mhm.
you need to be humble, and which is it's based on certain Christian things in there, and he's talking about the words the homeless man uses. I'm the son of Jehovah, the higher power, the nerve of Nazareth. It's all very Christian themed, but the overall theme of being a humble man and all that stuff. But just the way it's written, just certain lines just hit me. Like he's talking about he gets to a fever pitch with the homeless man where he's super angry at him, and he's saying, like you said, he's all my dimes and nickels are mine to keep and all this stuff. And then at a certain point, he keeps the same flow, but he goes, and I'm insensitive and I lack empathy. And it's like he's yelling that at him, but it's almost like it breaks down what's really inside of him. And he realizes, like, yeah, I have all this stuff, but I have flaws. And he's like, this one experience is making him realize it. And at the very end, the homeless man goes, I'll tell you how much $1 costs, a spot in heaven. Now embrace your loss.
I am God.
Yeah. Embrace your loss. I am God. Yeah. So crazy. It's so well written.
It is very well written. And I think maybe I'm not really that in tune with the lyrics, but it's more of like a grappling, like a personal grappling. They don't really talk too much. Like he says a couple lines like asking for change or whatever. And Kendrick just basically gives his personal thoughts on it. And
yeah, it's like him philosophizing kind of at the guy the entire time.
Yeah, it's not really too much of a conversation until the very end when he
talking about why would I give you money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we skipped hood politics. We
don't want to
completely skipped over the certified banger.
True. Yeah.
The beginning of this track always makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Call me on Shanika's phone.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good. It's all you.
Oh, it's a cool thing to
just brutally
have
misspelled politics looking it up. All right. Continue. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, it's kind of like stripped back, but it's more of a banger, and like you said, I think it's like also the point where he's going back to his Compton roots, and he's like, just big flexing and stuff.
Yeah, this is super this is definitely in the lines of a back free or back free a backseat freestyle sort of track.
Right.
He's not necessarily like stunting on y'all ass, but he gets very much in your face, like, this is who I am. I'm better than y'all. Y'all should just stop trying. I've been A1 since day one. You do is boo boo.
Yeah.
Very much in your face. That last verse is crazy. There's one of my favorite lines on this album is when you miss the critics basically say, "Oh, I miss when hip hop used to be rapping, motherfucker. If you did, then Killer Mike would be platinum."
Yeah.
That's large facts.
That's the politics part where he's talking about.
Facts.
Yeah, he's talking all about, like, y'all say all this shit about how you wish the game was, and it's like,
it's there.
If you got everything you wanted, you wouldn't want it anymore. Like,
yeah, it's there. So you just have to look. Run the Jewels been doing this shit for 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Now?
Exactly. Yeah, and I resonate so much with that line because people are like, "Oh man, hip hop is trash nowadays."
Facts.
It's like, bro.
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna reference. I remember playing. I forget what the fuck we were playing. I think y'all were on a game together, and I was doing whatever the fuck. But I was in the party, and y'all were having this like screaming match with Alex about how he won't listen to new rap because he calls it trash.
Yeah.
And it's like y'all were so pissed, and like rightfully so, honestly. I was like, I'm gonna stay out of this one because I don't have the ammunition. I'll let you guys handle this.
Yeah, he refused. We're not gonna have this. We're not gonna like shit on Alex the whole time, but this needs to be brought up. Like the whole I only listened to hip hop before 2003 thing. That's such an age-old argument, and it hasn't aged well in the slightest. If you think hip hop is trash, it's because you're not looking for actual good shit. You're just listening to whatever Spotify throws on Rap Caviar, and then you're calling
that's
it all
very
trash.
true.
When Joey Badass exists, when J. Cole exists, when Kendrick exists, shit, I could name 100 million rappers that spit exactly and even on the same beats in the 90s for the most part.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you definitely if you want it, it's there.
Exactly,
JID, Even
Yeah, come on.
JID doesn't like he's very much modern, but he keeps that same lyrical venom
Yeah.
that most of the people love from back in the day.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Kendrick will have complete trap songs, but he's still an amazing lyricist, and it's like
He's a fucking
you
poet.
can't like, yeah, just the way the
Absolutely.
beat sounds turns you off so much, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I
But
hope.
the thing that makes me laugh about that is that Alex makes trap beats.
I know, I know, I know.
So I'm just like, I don't understand. I think it's maybe partly due to his. I think he has a younger brother, and he just listens to nothing but like the emo trap and
No,
Yeah.
the Little
disgusting.
Skies of the world, the Juice worlds.
Yeah.
And he
Well,
just
Juice
has a
actually has
bad
some good
taste in his
stuff,
mouth.
but
Juice, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There's great. That's the thing. There's great stuff. I think there's great stuff when the genre evolves and has like people for the longest time didn't acknowledge any subgenres in hip hop, but
Yep.
I think it's important that you know they're there. Like if you're
There's like 20 subgenres now.
right, if you're listening to emo trap, you're listening to Juice World or something or Trippie Redd. They're not they weren't trying to bring the lyrics or anything
Yep.
all the time. Not that they don't have lyrics ever, but it's like the way it sounds and certain vibes and whatever the production, and they have melodies. But there's still like we were talking about. There's still the crazy lyricism stuff. Black Thought is still making music.
Black
I mean,
Thought,
for God's sake.
Drop the
This dude
album,
just-
family. We're waiting for you.
We're begging, please.
We're the only white kids waiting for your album. Please drop that.
There's a lot
Like-
of probably Jimmy Fallon viewers who.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, we got to stay tuned to that because that's what's up.
Very true.
But I mean,
Shout out to Run the Jewels too, man. That
exactly.
RTJ4 is that's definitely one of my albums of the year for
Yeah.
sure this year.
Killer Mike is one of the best to ever do it.
Yep.
And Kendrick was right. Yeah, it's cool. Getting back a little bit, that track is cool because you can interpret like hood politics as the sort of politics that go on in the hood. He's talking about sort of maybe some gang affiliations and like whatever might happen going on. If someone's like being aggressive towards him, he's going to defend himself. But then
Yep.
he talks about, like we were talking about the politics in the industry, but he also has this part where he says, Obama say what to do, and that beat just like breaks down and like keeps echoing that for a few seconds. And it's
And
this
then it goes
weird,
right back into that hook.
yeah, it's this weird part, but you realize he's trying to emphasize that, and he's like, also the politics of someone living in the hood is like, Obama isn't doing enough, like the president isn't doing enough. Help us out, please. Like that's
Yeah, and
part of it.
the album dropped in 2015, right? So he'd been in office for 7 years at that point.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot to that track that sounds simple at first. That's crazy.
But it's not you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit. It's just
Yeah.
one of those fun tracks.
Yeah, it's also a lot of fun. Yeah.
So moving right
Woo
along
woo.
to Complexion.
Oh man,
Dude,
we're in like
Complexion. The hook
Oh, yeah.
alone is enough to carry that shit, much less what they say on it.
yeah. This is one of my
Super
favorite
smooth.
sections of the whole album. Like these few songs, man.
Very true.
It's dope
What did you-
as I Google, like, just a sign of how deep all these fucking songs are and how leveled they are. Every time I'm Googling these songs to look at the lyrics to remind myself of them and be able to talk about them properly, one of the top 4 Googles is always meaning. Like I look up like Complexion Kendrick, and then like one of the autofills is
meaning.
always meaning. It's always like there. Like people are always trying to fucking figure out what this man is saying because he's so deep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So layered.
What did you think of like Complexion when you heard it, Cameron? Because it was, I don't know if it's that different, I guess, from the rest of the album, but
It's
ties
different.
into. Yeah,
It's definitely
and
different.
Very straightforward R&B feel.
Yeah, and then it's coming from that different perspective, and that Rhapsody featured at the end is amazing. Like,
Oh my god, are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, when we listened to it together, me and Trevor, when he was talking to me about do you know who Lucy is, and like kind of a pre talk so we could get to the meat and potatoes of it when we got
Yep.
on the podcast, and he was like, I was playing it through the mic, and he was like, Rhapsody, like, just popping off.
yeah,
He was like,
That's another
fuck me
rapper
up.
that's another rapper that needs a lot more attention than she gets. She's
Mhm.
fucking fantastic.
yeah.
Anyone who says rap is dead is not looking at all.
Yeah, that's So did you listening to it like early on, Cameron? Did you catch that like he's talking from the perspective of a slave to like another slave who has a romantic interest in and stuff. And
yeah, I mean, well, he literally calls himself a
good field dude. Yeah,
a good field dude. Yeah. I made a flower for you out of cotton just to chill with you.
Bruh!
She just
Yo, I've never seen this shit.
What?
Dude, this is dope.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about with the whole God damn.
You listen to it 17 times, and on the 18th listen, you still pick up something new.
Bruh. This album, I mean, it's so overwhelming with knowledge and just fucking storytelling that when I get to this part of the album, usually I just my brain doesn't interpret it nearly as well as it should, so I don't even hear some of this stuff. And then I'm looking at the lyrics, and damn, sneak me through the back window. I'm a good dude. I made a flower for you out of cotton just to chill with you. Damn, dude. Oh yeah,
so
holy shit. Thank you for telling me that. That's nuts.
That's awesome. See, this is the thing this always happens with Kendrick. Like, these are some of my most listened to albums ever, and I'll always catch something new. Like,
and it's different. It's different from like we've talked about M for God knows how long with the whole I listened to it 17 times and I keep catching bars. His is different because he just throws so many lyrics and so many triple entendres at you that it's hard to keep up with. But with Kendrick, it's not even so much that the metaphors and similes Jesus are too deep. It's just that it's so subtle. Like
he calls so little attention to it.
Yeah,
he dares you to fucking figure it out. Yeah.
I completely agree.
It's like, here's the song. Yeah, come bring, like, I definitely am a person who believes in the idea of art. Like, the art brings the thing, but you sort of got to meet it maybe halfway or not halfway, but at a certain percentage, and be like, I'm willing to put in effort if this is the kind of thing where there's depth there. So it's like, it's one of those songs that sounds so simple and pleasant, and then you realize what he's talking about. And the thing about the Rhapsody verse that's crazy, which it ties in so well with the rest of the song, is he just told her that it's a song about how about colorism and stuff, and how people are beautiful. And then she
didn't have a whole lot of instruction on how to do it. She just went in and did it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because at the end she goes, she talks about the gang colors and stuff in reference to this, like tying it in with this, and then that goes right into Black of the Berry, and she didn't even know that Black of the Berry was coming up. It's like so crazy.
Yeah, but I don't want to gloss over her verse because it's so masterful. But even like the whole beat change, it signifies like a different tone, and she's super straightforward with how she gets her lines across, so it's a little bit easier to grasp the concept and of loving whoever, no matter what they do, no matter what gang they might wear.
Yeah, and it's specific topic of colorism is like not something I know a lot about, because they're talking about like, even in certain communities, like darker skin is still looked at as bad, even when you have the same ethnic background or something. And so she's saying like, being what she says, like, light don't make you smart, being dark don't mean you're stupid. Like, yeah, the way she rhymes it and emphasizes it, it's a great, beautiful message. And it's like coming at it from the perspective of like a slave back in the day, is like he's emphasizing like we're all in this together. Like there's no reason for us to be divided over stuff like this. Like, so that's
amazing.
Crazy way.
That track just shot up the playlist for me.
Yeah, that message that you're talking about killing each other in the streets is like completely backwards, essentially contradictory is what I'm looking for, of like what contradictory to progress, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is like we're doing what they want us to do, like we're doing what the state wants us to do, kind of, where we're living in our own little world, just having our own little wars, and it's completely contained, and like everyone can just pretend we don't exist and like not look at it and like put it in the corner. And if we, just because we keep on killing each other in the streets and like having these gang violence and gang wars, and Like, we need to rise up together to be able to make change.
He
And
touches
that's
on
a
that,
message.
that
That's a
specific
message that he
topic.
lays into a few times in the next few tracks.
He touches on that specific topic on Wesley's Theory too. Like, take a few M16s to the hood, pass them out on the block was good. Just the whole, like, not glorifying killing each other, but just speaking truth about how shit happens.
Yeah, and it's great with Kendrick because where he's from, he's seen all this stuff and he's been sort of tangentially involved. So it's not like he's coming from a place where he sounds like he's being superior or preachy
Yep.
or something. He's like this is my experience with it, and maybe we can help each other out. And which is there's an amazing like little interlude at the end of Complexion, and then it kicks into Black or the Berry, and one of the best songs of I don't know.
This is my favorite track on the album, and this is my favorite song that he's ever done.
Man,
I get goosebumps at the very beginning, and I get goosebumps at the very end when the beat switches from that super aggressive boom bap shit to that nice calm after the storm, super surreal thing. I don't even know what to call it. It's so nice. You have to hear it to understand what I mean, but the hair on my skin raises, man. That shit is hard.
Yeah, it's I mean, surely most people, I don't know, people have heard it, but yeah, when you hear it come up in the album too, like he has the little thing where like Complexion sounds nice, and then it gets dark, and he's like, it's not Compton I see something much worse, and like and then it's like almost returning to what it's sort of what he talked about on Good Kid, Mad City, but even from a even more mature perspective and another way to talk about it. And it's just.
Do you know who produced this track?
I don't know. No.
Boy Wonder.
Oh, okay.
Boy Wonder produced this fucking track.
Wow.
That shit. He's so if for those who don't know, Boy Wonder is the in-house producer, one of the in-house producers for OVO Sound, which is Drake's label. And he's responsible for, God's Plan and Headlines, all that kind of stuff.
Man.
Yeah, he's an incredible fucking producer.
That's
and
crazy.
I didn't even know he produced this until a few days ago when I was re-listening to this for the podcast, and I looked up the credits and I was like, "Bruh, are you serious?" That's just like a nice little cherry on top, knowing who produced it and just being so connected to the producer and being like, oh shit, that's him, because you expect a certain style from some producers, and for them to jump on something that's totally not them and still nail it is a wonderful feeling to look.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's such a different sound, like the hard boom bap with like the rock influence and the dark like chords and everything. God dang.
Yep.
So
there's that.
What did I don't know. What did you think of this song, Cameron? Does he feel like a high point to you as well?
It's probably one of my least favorite songs on the album. It kind of didn't really hit that hard. He doesn't really say a lot, honestly.
No, that's fact.
I think the message just really isn't there, the way it is with some of the other songs.
It's super pee-pee poo-poo.
Yeah, obviously I'm being fucking fully sarcastic. No, I mean it's a phenomenal song. He says a lot. So yeah, I mean, you guys have given this way more listens than I have and can talk about it in way more detail. And I'd like to let you guys dig into it because I can't. I don't think I have the.
Well, I mean, how did you feel about it?
I mean, it's a very broad question for this song. Mm-hmm. I felt good about it.
There you go.
Like, obviously, I mean, fuck. You can go line by line. So I don't know. You guys talk about it because yeah, just you guys get into it, and I'll pipe up when I think of something.
There's like a theme that this track follows of like, you hate me, don't you? You want my my culture to be terminated. He's sort of speaking. What would you call that? Who's he speaking to exactly, David?
Yeah, it's I guess it's sort of perspective of like maybe towards a white supremacist, or like the government that enforces this sort of system on him, or maybe like, just broader American culture in general. It could be in a lot of lines. Yeah, so he starts off each verse, right, with saying, "I'm the biggest hypocrite of 2015,"
2015.
and he talks about hating his people, like people hating black people, right? He's talking about racism and going all out on it. This is like, he's so
He lets his nuts hang.
his vocal performance on this
That's one way of
track
putting
is
it.
insane. Yeah, he goes so hard. His voice is so aggressive and perfect for what he's talking about.
This is my favorite Kendrick voice. Like the super guttural, in your face, at your throat. You're gonna listen to me. I'm not gonna put any fucking shit on my voice. You're not gonna hear me go in and out. I'm not gonna sound like I'm underwater. I'm right in front of you. You're gonna hear me.
Yeah.
This is my favorite. My favorite.
Yeah. All right, and everything works so well together. He has to show that emotion, and because then he
spells out a lot of the stereotypes of black culture. Like
Mhm.
he even has came from the bottom of mankind. My hair is nappy. My dick is big. My nose is round and wide.
Yeah.
You hate me, don't you? You hate my people. Your plan is to terminate my culture. I want you to recognize that I'm a proud monkey. You vandalize my perception, but can't take style from me, dude. Like,
Yeah.
He fucking bars the hell out. It's
like how
outrageous,
people
honestly.
see him, and
you know how Light and Death Note would feverishly write on the Death Note whenever there was something super tense going on. This is how I think Kendrick was writing on his pad in this. Like just super like really dramatic. Like need to get this hate shit out. Yeah.
He has in the third verse he has this subtle switch where he says, "You know how I know I hate you because you're in love with that desert eagle."
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe from then he's talking about his fellow man and sort of another gang member who's maybe has different affiliations or whatever. And then he talks about it's also about black on black violence or just
gang violence. He has
violence.
He has that parallel between the tribal cultures and Compton gangs and stuff.
Yeah. They want to.
It's funny how Zulu and Xhosa might go to war, two tribal armies that want to build and destroy. Remind me of these Compton Crip gangs that live next door, beefing with Pyrus, only death settle the score.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
And the next 8 lines are heavy because the whole I'm a hypocrite of 2015 is like he was associated with the death of a black man, but yet how could he say that? Like how could he preach other things even though he lives to be like a prominent black figure? That still drags him down, like with and then he just spits out about a bunch of not stereotypes. A couple of them are like, how I eat watermelon chicken and Kool-Aid on weekdays, or jump high enough to get Michael Jordan endorsements. And then he asks the question, so why did I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street, when gangbanging made me kill a dude blacker than me? And then he screams hypocrite at the end.
And then, like Trevor was talking about, it gives you this like slow, like ethereal instrumental to just think about what he said for like almost a minute, right? Like, and it's I get why like he got some flack for it when it came out because people were saying, like he's saying the problem is just within the black community, but I think it's more like there are multiple problems, and there's really the problem of the system being the way it is and keeping us down. So let's band together and fight against it like together in the best way we can.
Definitely try to brashly highlight the problems in his community and bring light to it.
It's very much in your face, and he's speaking from experience and not from a place of superiority or anything like that. It's not preachy. It's like
not in the slightest, no way.
Yeah.
I had to read a book for an anthropology class. I think it was my cultural anthropology class, the first semester I took of anthro, and it was about the El Salvadorian gang, MS-13, which has gotten pretty big. I remember what you're talking about. Yep. And it's a this guy literally goes and basically just spends 10 years living with the gang and just documents everything they do and tries to tell their story. And he creates these composite characters, 5 of them, to tell the stories of multiple people through the lens of 5 like fake names. And the thing he comes back to over and over again is no one joins a gang because it's fun. People join gangs because they have to, because their neighborhoods have been abandoned by the state, and this is the only way to survive. Like, you join a gang for safety, not because it's fun getting shot at. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, and so that's what I think you were getting at, Trevor, is like, or David as well, when you said like he got a lot of flack for it coming out, saying like, because it sounded like he was saying that all the problems just exist because of the black community doing this to itself. It's like, this is a symptom of ongoing racism that has been existent since the founding of our country. Like, this is, you can trace back the founding of, like, you can start with like this one domino of the way our country was founded and go all the way to the Civil War ending the way it did, Jim Crow, and then just black people being absolutely downtrodden outright and forced into these communities where they, like, gangs just end up spawning as a symptom of how terribly they've been abandoned, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lack of education, lack of resources. I know exactly. we're not talking about Dang right now, but it reminds me of just a certain line on Triple X, which is a song that kind of reminds me of Black or the Berry in general, where he's talking about this issue a little bit. And he starts it out with this like monotone voice where he's saying, throw a steak off a yacht to a pool full of sharks, they'll take it. Throw him in the wilderness with his sworn enemy, he'll make it. It's like, you're putting us in this environment where there's nothing for us, and like people have formed groups where they have certain enemies, and it's like, yeah, they'll be fine. Why aren't they pulling themselves up by their bootstraps? It's like, no, you have no understanding with the reality that like someone like Kendrick has gone through, and that's what he's talking about.
Exactly.
Beautifully said.
It's like, you can't say, oh, like, just work hard and you'll get what you want, when there's
the American
like
dream.
when there's like brutally underfunded education, like, and due to that, like, teachers that just like don't want to be there, and so the school system suffers, which makes it so that the individuals themselves suffer and then don't have a proper education, and then I say all this, Kendrick was a straight A student, but like, all these systems in cities across America that there is no ladder to climb. Like, they're talking about like, you said pull yourself up by the bootstraps, work hard, and you can climb the ladder. Like, the ladder doesn't exist there. Like, it's just like it stops after like 3 rungs. So it's like, people have this utterly outdated or not even outdated, just ridiculous viewpoint of being able to succeed just based on effort, and the fact that the system is fine the way it is because I was able to do it, so you should be able to too. Yep. It's like, your circumstances were egregiously different from the people you're telling just work hard and you'll make it.
Yeah.
And I'll leave that there.
About that exact like topic for another hour at least.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's glad we touched on it, especially with this album. That's so let's see if we can finish it up a little bit. The album.
I'm going a little long, but
sure. We is this after this is how much a dollar cost, or around this?
No,
we already had.
You ain't gotta lie.
Oh yeah, that's right. So that's cool. This might be one of my least favorite tracks on the album.
I agree with you. I honestly have only heard this song a handful of times.
Yeah. It's like this. It's kind of nice to have a pad before the very end. Maybe he just wanted to have that between Black of the Berry and the other stuff. But it's like, okay, it's definitely cool, and he's sort of making fun of rappers. Like, you don't have to lie about who you are, but from the perspective of his mother, like, it's kind of a funny way to sun these rappers a little bit.
You ain't gotta try so hard.
Yeah. And then I is one of my favorites. I think the album version is so much better than the version he released on like
as a single
or whatever. Yeah, as a single.
I don't even know the difference, but I'll go with you.
Oh yeah, it's like more rock influenced and cool, and just, I don't know, more real instruments, and it's he does it with like in the context of a live performance.
It's super lively.
Yeah, I have a hat with "I" on it. If I could show it to you guys,
Hey.
but people can't see it anyway. But it's I love the message. We talked about it earlier. The parallel with you. He's talking about self-love, and like you said, it works on the level of his community. And he said he specifically some of the people he made it for were people who were locked up for decades or whatever, and like have like feel like they don't have any hope, and it's like you can love yourself even through all that, or you can try. And
And then he gets into that whole speech, like how you said it's in the context of a live performance. He's just talking on stage to his community almost, and like asking them how many people have we done lost. We gotta band together if we're gonna fight this thing.
And he goes into the origins of the N-word, and he talks about
Nigas. Negus.
Yeah, an older, I guess, West African word, I believe he's talking about. Straight from Ethiopia, that's right. It's like,
it means king.
Black emperor, king, ruler. Now let me finish. Yeah. He's saying, like, we should understand this word. It comes from royalty, and not, like, it doesn't mean we're putting
Not
each
from
other
a place
down
of
with
hatred.
it. Yeah, like, we can use it as brotherhood, and, even talks, almost, not really takes a shot, but just talks about how Oprah was, being, like, dismissive of that word, and like people shouldn't use it, but he's like, hey, if you look at the origins of it, like let's put a better context around this. And so it's a lot
and
about,
that word isn't always hatred either. Like it's very much like, hey, you're my homie. They took that word, that disgusting disgraceful word, and they contorted it into a way for them to big themselves up.
There is no other word like it in the English language in terms of the history behind it and the change in meaning and the range of meaning.
No, and people like it's a very unique word, but like that's also how language works. If people don't understand, like new words like come up, and words change their meaning over time depending on how people use them. And like it doesn't mean that we're gonna say it, but it's like people talk about like, oh, black people shouldn't say that or whatever. It's like you don't even know what people are saying when they say that. And I don't know.
And a lot of people have that misconception of, hey, the word with the A versus the ER they're the same. Like a lot of people feel like those words are the same. It's just a shortened version of the same word, when that couldn't be any farther from the truth.
Yeah, takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah,
and it's great talking about just with this song too, the progression he's shown on this album, like getting to a point of self-actualization where like the whole thing, it's almost like you could read it as only talking about wider issues, but it's also talking about himself as a through line, and it works on that level of he hated himself earlier on. He saw all these flaws in himself, and now he's learned to love himself. And then it goes into the final track, Mortal Man.
The Pac interview.
So
when shit hit the fan, is you still a fan?
This great rap verse about wondering, I guess, what would you say, like wondering about how fame will last and what people still think
just
of them,
how fickle it can be.
And then
will you back me when shit gets real?
Right. And it
I wish that song was separated from that Pac interview that he does, because I love when I heard it for the first time in a while today, and I was like, man, this shit is nice. Like it feels great. And then the song is like 12 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like that. It actually especially when Pac comes in, he does a really cool job of giving a mock interview of Pac, and he takes like different interview clips and stuff that he said when he was still alive, and he kind of morphs it into what he's asking him about. And it's very prophetic. How would you say that?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
He's very much a prophet. Like the whole bit about the next time we riot, there's going to be bloodshed, and that couldn't be any more from like closer to the truth than with the George Floyd incident.
Yeah, Trevor and I, when we were listening together, we were talking about how ridiculous it is that it's like you could have published this album yesterday and it would be exactly as relevant.
It's painfully accurate to today's climate.
And it so he, a little bit of context, he finishes the poem, he reads the whole thing out, and it's revealed like in the story of the album, he's like reading it to Pac right at the end. And like you were saying, that interview, he took it from, I think, some interview Tupac did in Germany, obviously back in the
So
90s.
it's just one interview? Like that was just one thing?
I think at least mostly it was from that, and it was like unaired. Like, he was like doing a show in Germany, and this interviewer just gave this tape to him, and it was like, oh, what the frick? And
Mhm.
so he was able to edit that in with the questions he's asking, like you said. And yeah, dude, it's
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 very
crazy.
surreal hearing Pac on a 2015 album,
Yeah,
almost like he's still alive talking to Kendrick, because Kendrick like will tell you that's one of his biggest inspirations.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tupac talks about bloodshed with riots, and he talks about like the poor rising up in this metaphor
Hmm.
he has, and it's like, dang. And then he reads another poem to him about what the meaning of "To Pimp a Butterfly" is, the title
Yep.
of the album. And you're like, dang, another poem. But it's like, it's crazy how it's it talks about the, like, I don't know, how would you
That's the part
some
with the caterpillar, right?
yeah,
The
yeah,
caterpillar being the white man.
I think what he's talking about is someone else wrote it, and she was saying how um
No, the caterpillar is a prisoner to the streets. I conceived it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
a guy born on the streets is like a
Yep.
prisoner of his environment, and he forms a cocoon to sort of harden himself and only see certain things. And then when his talent, like, the talent of black people has been so instrumental in the culture of America for I don't know how many freaking years since the beginning.
Since the
When
dawn of
it,
time.
yeah, when it, like, every American genre of music almost, like, and then
Basically.
it becomes, yeah, it turns into the butterfly, like he's this talented rapper or whatever, and he can look back on the situation he was in and gain new perspective on it. And that's like literally what Kendrick did. That's like this album is him gaining perspective. And I guess you could say "To Pimp a Butterfly" is like talking about how the music industry in America will pimp out that talent and use it for its
Until there's
own
nothing
gain.
left. Yeah.
Yeah, and not care
And
about the
go on to the
the
next
artists or the
person.
yeah, not care about the people making the music, which you could see, like, there are people talking about how, like, with Juice World, or someone like him or Mac Miller, like, people at the labels don't care about your mental health or the drugs you're using, if they're dangerous to you or
Very true.
anything. It's
Actually,
like,
they do care. They want you to be a slave to drugs because it brings profit and it
right.
brings
Yeah.
publicity to that label and that person. If they're always in the news, they're always being talked about. It gets more clicks. Clicks generate revenue because of ads. It's a very
Yeah.
vicious cycle of, hey, we don't give a fuck about your actual mental health, but we do want you to be fucked up in as many ways as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy that album, or that even just that second poem talks about all that. It
Finally
encompasses
free,
so much.
the butterfly sheds light on situations that the caterpillar never considered, ending the internal struggle. Although the butterfly and caterpillar are completely different, they are one and the same. It's a
Mm.
beautiful poem, honestly.
Yeah, it's like Kendrick's whole story. That's crazy, and I guess a lot of artists' story.
Blossoming from the streets to be as big as he is and as inspirational and as he is.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. What did you think? Did you know there was a Tupac interview at the end, Cameron? Did the end surprise you or anything?
No, I did not know anything about that. Yeah, it definitely surprised me. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm trying to find something new to introduce here, but yeah, no, I mean,
You don't have to.
yeah, I mean, it capped it off really nicely. He like finally finishes the full poem that Trevor read at the beginning, and then even provides context about having written it and why he wrote it and why he feels it needs to be said, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Um, so it does bring everything together really nicely, for sure.
That, and I wanted to bring up this point before we end this, that like when he reads the second poem to Pac, the music in the background crescendos to a point where it goes maddening, like it's almost deafening, and
Mm.
that's the point where Kendrick's brought back to reality of,
Mm.
hey, Pac is not here anymore. We're still in this internal struggle, but that poem is the goal, to end that internal struggle and to live with one another in harmony.
Yeah.
And I think that it's nicely done
And to
because he just like
succeed
screams
together
out for him. Yeah,
as
he's like
opposed to
Pac,
in
Pac,
spite of one
Pac.
another.
Yeah,
Mhm.
It just leads out to the end, and it loops back into the beginning. So
Yeah.
nicely.
So, do we do? No, we don't really do ratings for albums. I don't
No,
know.
but we can try it. I mean, we'll do a 1 out of 10 scale. How do you feel about the album?
Yeah, Cameron, go ahead. You're the new.
Frick
new
me,
to
put
it.
me on the spot a little more, huh?
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. I mean, I'll try to come up with a real number as you guys give yours. I won't let it be swayed. I'll form my own
David,
opinions.
I think you're at what, a 9.5, right?
No, it's a 10 out of 10.
You're
It's
a 10?
out of
That's a
for
10?
me,
All
yeah.
right.
Damn.
Yeah,
I'm not going
yeah.
that high for mine, but
Dang. It's to me a 10 doesn't need to be a quote unquote perfect album. I don't know really. I mean, it can have flaws or whatever. It's just like the amount this album changed my way of thinking, and like every time I listen to it again, it's like it feels like my moral foundation is being strengthened, and like I'm like gaining intelligence. It's like it's insane, and it sounds great,
That-
and it's like
it
production
sounds
like
fantastic. Yeah, the production, we didn't really talk too much about it sonically, but the production it's crisp, it's clean, and it's not in the way that it's manufactured. It's just they took so much care with the actual production of it, and it's gorgeous. The instruments are super full.
funk,
It
jazz,
bangs in the
rock and
car.
roll.
It
Yeah, yeah.
bangs in the car.
And there's no 808s used on it. Yeah, it's like
No,
it's totally unique.
every
Yeah.
time these walls could
These
every time
walls
these
could
walls kicks in with if these walls could talk, and then it just
Yeah.
boom, it's so nice.
So groovy, for real.
It's amazing. It's an amazing album. I give it a I don't know, man. It's not a 10 for me. There's a couple tracks, and like David said, everything doesn't have to be perfect, but there are a couple tracks that kind of a little bit. I think I give it a 9.
Yeah, and it's
I
like
give it a
it's
solid
our
9.
personal. That's cool. Yeah, that's a great score first of all, and it's also our personal enjoyment of it.
Yeah,
It doesn't even. It's like
it's
the
funny
album.
that we live in a, sorry to keep interrupting you. It's funny that we live in a society where even getting like a 7 is bad.
Yeah.
Because it's average. It's not average. You're like that. We're just
The rating
defined
system
to
is
think
just gonna
about that.
broke. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just defined to think about that because of the schooling that we went through and how C's are passing. It doesn't have to be that way with music, because then you kind of just limit yourself to saying, well, if anything under 7 is trash, then it's trash. It's not trash. Like it's,
That's like I think Trevor and I sort of do the same type of thing. I try to, like, if I say a number out of something for anything I'm trying to score, it's like a 5 is like average for me. So a 6 is pretty good. A 7 is like really good. A 7.5 or something, I'm like, that's great. And then
yeah,
so a 9 is like mind blowing. And if I like a 10, they're only like 5 albums I've ever listened to. I'd give a 10 or something like that. So
okay. I could give a couple more albums for sure. That would be a 10. Good Kid is a 10 in my eyes.
Yeah, me too.
Good
But
Kid is a 10. Yeah.
it's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Yep, that it is. What about you, Cameron? Give us your score, bitch.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
If it's anything under a 9, you're wrong.
I'm scared.
You're exhibiting white privilege if it's anything under a 9.
Oh, yikes.
I mean, it is like early impressions, and he hasn't had the time
That's
to
true.
sit with
That's
it.
very
Yeah,
true.
so that's what I was gonna say. Is it's hard for me to rate it that high, based on the fact that the ultimate value you place upon it, David, is from listening to it so much and
And
catching
living
so
with it
much
for
more.
years.
So I don't know. I mean, surface level, yeah, I'd give it a 9, but it'd probably go up the more I listen to it.
Cool.
It actually definitely will go up the more I listen to it.
Yeah.
Because I would also rate Good Kid a 10, and on my first couple listens, I was like, all right, like this is like an 8.5, something like that. Like, and then you just like, but there are still bangers on there. And so
There's only one weak track on Good Kid for me, and that's the title track, Good Kid. But even then, it services the album quite nicely.
Yeah, that song is great. Freaky. Compton's
Yeah,
the weakest
I
one for
agree.
me on Good Kid.
Shut the fuck up.
I agree, frick you.
Compton
Trevor.
is the best fucking track on the. I'm joking. It's not.
No.
Don't kill me,
Compton
David.
is hard as fuck. This man
It's
has
good.
been shitting on Compton.
I don't think it's trash. It's a good song.
Dude.
He's good song.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
One of my favorite albums.
That
ever.
hook alone, bruh.
It's good.
Oh my god.
So
you're crazy for that.
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know either.
All right.
Okay, so before we end this podcast, we want to recommend Cameron another album
Oh yeah.
That we
We
can
talked about
discuss
this last
in
night.
2 weeks, probably.
in 2 weeks. Yeah, this one is like half the length. It's much shorter. I think it's like maybe 40 minutes. You want to
Yeah.
tell him or should I?
Sure,
I'll tell
yeah.
him. I'll do the artist and then you do the album.
Okay.
All right, so it's by a little. It's by the guy that Sydney knows. His name is Nazir Jones.
Mm.
Nazir
Indeed.
Jones. He
That's
holds
such
like
that's such
he
a never mind.
Anyways,
It's such a dumb joke is what I'm saying, but just continue.
because every time she talks about like Nas, I'm just like,
Nas.
wait, the
Yeah.
rapper?
Her name is Nas. No, it's her.
Nas? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Technically her sister-in-law, I guess.
Yeah, so we're talking about Nazir Jones. It's probably unanimously the best hip hop album of all time. If you ask a hip hop head.
Is this
Yeah,
another one that
so-
you would give a 10, David?
Not
yeah.
not personally, but
Oh damn.
let me get in. Okay, so the album's Illmatic, and
Yes.
for any hip hop fans listening,
Illmatic.
like Trevor said, this is have you heard the title at all, Cameron?
I don't think I have.
Wow.
See, that's what's amazing about this podcast. This,
Yeah.
if you listen to hip hop for any length of time, an old head or like even a new listener will probably be like, Illmatic
Illmatic?
is the greatest hip hop album of all time. It's like it is the most. It's
most
not my
revered.
favorite. Yeah, it's not necessarily my favorite. It's not like it's everyone's favorite, but it's definitely the most widely agreed upon, probably, as like, oh, what's the best hip hop album, or what's the quintessential classic hip hop album? It's
Yeah.
Illmatic.
Yeah, I
by
gotcha.
Nas.
If you had to pick a starting point, this is
Yeah.
what it would be.
1994, I believe,
Yep.
and
When he was 20 fucking years old.
yeah, it's very different from the album we just listened to, but
Even still, like they have a remastered version of it, and I definitely recommend you listen to the remastered version because it brings up the volume. It's very rough. It's super boom bap, very mid '90s, very rough production. But his flows they hold up today. There's some just absolute banger tracks on there, like New York State of Mind, that I
Yeah.
can't wait for you to hear. It's very much in the vein of hip hop, so you need to definitely listen to it.
yeah, it is hip hop distilled into an album. It influenced so many things that are around nowadays. It's
And it's
unbelievable.
and it's short and to the point. It doesn't leave you.
Yeah, it's only 40 minutes, 10 tracks.
Yeah, it's 10
Mhm.
tracks. It's super succinct. Every
Yeah.
track stands on its own,
Yeah, so
and they've been
Dude.
fucking sampled to all hell.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I'll write down if I've like heard the songs, but not known like this is Nas, this is Illmatic or whatever.
You might have heard "The World Is Yours." "World Is Yours" is
Yeah,
pretty
So we'll
big.
see.
yeah, we'll
So,
see.
yeah.
Well, that'd
Yeah.
be interesting to hear about. Yeah.
I was
Couple
talking to
weeks.
David about this last night. I think we're gonna give you a newer hip hop album and then an older hip hop album, and then just like kind of bounce back and forth,
I like
just so
it,
we
yeah.
get get the juxtaposition going of
Mhm.
the different.
I'm a
sounds
fan of that, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
We don't want to overdose you on old shit. So.
Yeah. All right.
Well, that was a dope podcast. Unfortunately, we didn't get to other topics.
Yeah.
No, we really laid into to Pimp a Butterfly for sure.
And
No,
it deserves it.
It
It
deserves it,
absolutely
yeah,
deserves it.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens.
So we will come back at you next week with some hopefully some Harry Potter discussions.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah.
I'm currently reading The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Maybe I can get a Sorcerer's Stone finished by then.
Hey, it's a quick read. It's like 2 days max.
I'm like
Yeah.
running out of anime to watch, so I've just been fucking bored of video games recently, so I'm just crushing
Same,
fucking anime.
dude. Same, bruh.
Jeez.
So-
Yeah.
I'm so glad I got back into reading. Thank you, Rocio. I love you. So, yeah.
Nice.
Any closing
Sydney's gonna be
remarks,
mad
guys?
that your girlfriend got you to read Harry Potter before I ended up doing it, so I gotta get on that horse and not get my ass beat.
Hey,
Dang.
it opens up a world of opportunity. So many stories to read.
Indeed.
Any
Well,
closing remarks from you two gentlemen?
Thanks for listening. I think we're gonna play one of the tracks off my new thing.
Yes,
Throw a
sir.
little variety in there, or just
Check
part
it
of
out.
It.
The Nature EP on YouTube and SoundCloud. Give my boy a
Yep.
listen.
You don't have to check it out if you don't want, but
Shut the fuck up.
all right. Yeah, everybody, thanks for listening to Unboxing to Pimp a Butterfly. We'll be at you
Nature.
next week with some new stuff, and peace
We'll be
out.
at you next week.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Unboxing Life Pod. You can find me personally at CamBlaze on Twitter. And I think it's the same on Instagram, but I don't post on there at all, so don't bother with that. Trevor, where can the people find you?
I am Sensible Skyline on Instagram. That's the only place I really care about you seeing me.
All right, and
Yeah,
David.
what am I on Instagram? David Williams 458, I guess.
488, I think.
Something like that.
Give my
Yeah.
boy some followers.
Find me on the Unboxing Life bio too.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Mm-hmm.
All right, adios.
Peace out, baby.
Yeah.